Ross Fedrick was appointed as the 10th president of Albany State University on August 14, 2018 by the University System of Georgia Board of Regents. She was appointed after serving as both the interim executive vice president and interim president for the university since October 2017. President Fedrick is an accomplished senior leader whose proven expertise spans over 30 years. Her professional background includes higher education administration, strategic planning, crisis management, and strategic partnership management in both the private and public sectors. Fedrick is a two-time graduate of the University of Georgia with a bachelor's degree in adult education, concentration in organizational development, and a master's degree in public administration. As president of the Albany State University, Fedrick continues to apply her diverse experiences and commitment to drive initiatives that ignite excellence. The intersection of her vision, passion, and broad leadership capabilities have placed her in key leadership roles throughout her career. Serving as the USG Vice Chancellor of Human Resources, Fedrick has led strategic initiatives relating to effective university administration, leadership development, and all human resource planning efforts. Clark Atlanta University, Emory University Hospitals, State of Georgia's Office of State Personnel Administration, AT&T, and the former Bell South Corporation. Please welcome President Marion Fedrick. Next, we have Dr. Angela Peters. Dr. Angela Peters is currently Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs and Professor of Chemistry at Albany State University. For more than 30 years, she continues to empower and mentor students to and through college, graduate school, and professional school. Dr. Peters serves on several college community, academic, and professional boards at the national and state levels and holds membership in several professional organizations that promote education, literacy, and STEM. She has secured many grants from federal, state, and private agencies and has contributed numerous scholarly publications in journals and books and has presented at national and regional conferences governing high-impact practices such as college and student success, STEM, and science education. Dr. Peters and her husband, Dr. Stephen Peters, have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. Please welcome Dr. Peters. Next, we have Dr. Wendy Wilson. Dr. Wendy Wilson is a transformational leader with a proven reputation for advancing organizational operations and profiles through post-secondary education and corporate systems. Currently, she serves as Albany State University's Vice President of University Relations and Chief of Staff. Wilson facilitates strategic management processes and interacts with members at all levels of the internal and external university community. This macro level of engagement has proven successful in defining, advancing, and assessing the work of the Office of the President in the support of effective institutional alignment and synergy. Dr. Wilson is a native of Detroit, Michigan. She holds a doctorate in curriculum leadership from Columbus State University, a Master of Science in Human Resource Management from Central Michigan University, and a Bachelor of Science in Organizational Management from Bluefield College. Please welcome Dr. Wendy Wilson. Lastly, we have Miss Dedra Williams. Miss Dedra Williams is a native of Chauncey, Georgia, and a proud graduate of Albany State University with a Bachelor's of Art degree in Psychology. Dedra holds a Master's of Science degree in Management with emphasis on leadership and organizational effectiveness from Troy University. She currently serves as the Associate Dean for Student Engagement at Albany State University, where she is responsible for overseeing programming and events geared toward fostering an inclusive educational environment for students. Her overall goal each day is to educate, engage, and empower the youth of tomorrow. Aside from working full-time, Ms. Williams is a part-time instructor and a leadership consultant. She's also the owner and operator for Black Mom University, LLC. She enjoys reading, shopping, spending time with her family and friends, and mentoring the youth through her church and sorority. Dedra is wife to Joshua and mother to Aubrey, daughter, aunt, and a friend and sister to many. Without any further ado, please join me again in welcoming these amazing women in leadership. Up next is Ms. Brianna Adams to facilitate our speaker question and answer session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I say good afternoon, everyone. I am Brianna Adams, a 20-year-old junior early childhood education major, hailing from Detroit, Michigan by way of Hampton, Georgia, and I currently serve as Miss Black and Old Gold for the Delta Delta chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I wanted to ask the panel a few questions today about their success and stories, and after we'll receive questions from the audience and comments, so that we can get to know each and every one of you just a little bit better. Tell us one way exercising leadership has always come easy to you and one way it has challenged you. We're going to start with President Fedrick.
I still don't think that's fair. That's all right, though. One way leadership is easy. Y'all, I'm not sure that leadership is ever easy. What I will say, though, is a true desire, core desire to help people helps me with leadership. And for that, I give my parents and my grandparents the handshake for kind of embedding that, and me and all of my brothers and sisters. And so I have 9 siblings, and we were responsible for caring for each other. That you grow up with that, and it just kind of expands from there. Something that's difficult, something that comes difficult for me is separating that care for people from the business of what I'm doing. And as some of my supporters in here know, people who work with me and for me, I'll give away the shop. And it's, you know what, they need it, let's do it. And they are always having to counsel me on, but let's think about this and let's think through that. At the end of the day, I still gonna give it away. But it's just a matter of how you separate the two. And that has always been difficult for me.
Thank you, President Frederick. Next, we'll have Dr. Angela Peters.
Hello, everybody.
Is this on?
Yep. Hello, everybody. And y'all look so beautiful, ladies. You look so beautiful. And gentlemen, you look very handsome. The gentlemen in here also. Didn't want to leave you all out. So thanks for having us. The thing for me about leadership is that it has truly helped me to see role models that I aspire to be. As you were coming up, you heard everybody say, if you see it, if you see it, you can do it. If you believe it, you see it. And that is certainly true. And I'm sure all of you have been watching what's going on with the election, and you can truly see who real leaders are and leaders that you want to emulate. But for me, having great leaders in my life that I can emulate and that I can aspire to be like, such as the president and the ladies here on the panel, have truly helped me define my leadership, what leadership means to me, and what type of legacy I want to leave as a leader when we leave this great place. And so throughout my life, I've had some phenomenal female mentors, phenomenal female teachers who all imparted upon me a different part of their spirit that truly helped me to develop who I am as a leader. One of the difficult things for me as a leader is never letting them see me sweat. So yesterday, Madam President, you said, I want some of your peace. Remember that? And so for her to say that was very, very kind to me, because in my head, I had all of these overwhelming, challenging things that were happening. But for great leaders, such as who we're about to vote for, all of you who are going to go out and vote, for great leaders, you see what you want to be, you see who you don't want to be, and you're able to emulate that. But you're going to be in situations where you yourself are challenged and you yourself are overwhelmed, and you have to remember that you are driving that ship. You are the captain of that ship, and you cannot lose your composure. And so for me, that has been difficult, but it's also been a blessing.
Awesome. All right, Dr. Wendy Wilson.
I think I'm on. Hello, everyone. I should have gone first. Those are great answers, tough acts to follow. But let me start with the initial question, which is what's the great thing about leadership? And I would have to say is if you are an observant person, that serves you well. If not, you need to become an observant person. And what I mean by that is that will help you to make the decision as to how you want to respond to the moment as a leader. So you have to be attuned to the moment, attuned to the experiences that are occurring around you. And if you acquire that skill set and then develop it to a mastery level, you will be a top-notch leader, in my opinion. One of the challenges, and it continues to be difficult for me, is there is always this desire to want to fix something, and sometimes conditions are beyond your control. We're living in such times as that with this whole pandemic. And so you want to move on to the next, and you want to make a difference, and you want that difference to be made, if possible, in a expeditious or an immediate time frame. And that doesn't always occur. And so you have to exercise patience, and you have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient with those that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, because people bring different experiences and skills and understanding of the moment. All of that will vary. And so it's important as a leader that you exercise patience and understand that sometimes I've done all that I can possibly do, and then I just have to wait the moment out, and hopefully it will improve. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean Williams.
Good afternoon again, everyone. In terms of the easiest thing about leadership, in my opinion, for me specifically, I would say working in higher ed has been my innate ability to be able to connect with people, particularly students that I serve, and my colleagues, and having the opportunity to be able to network with others and cultivate and develop relationships. And I call it innate because I certainly do believe that it's something that was gifted to me and that I'm blessed with, because I don't think that every person has it. And I also call it innate because it's very effortless for me. It's something that I'm comfortable with, and I don't have to try very hard to connect with people and have a camaraderie with people. And so I'm grateful for that gift, I like to call it. So I would say that's the easiest thing for me as it relates to leadership and developing a vision and a plan and moving a ship forward or moving a project forward, is being able to have a team spirit and connect with others. But probably the most challenging thing for me has been the human side of policies and procedures and things that you need to do when you're looking at the bigger picture or the goal, or you're looking at, for me, when I'm developing projects or working with my team or working with you all, my vision is kind of twofold. What is of benefit to you all as our customers, but also what is good, fiscally for the university, or what would be a good look or a bad look for the university, or what, is this something short-term goal? Is it a long-term goal? So always having that dichotomy, those two sides of how you function. Sometimes that can be challenging. You really have to sit and evaluate a situation fully, or look at the perspective, like Dr. Wilson just said, be very observant about, what you're doing and the decisions that you're making, to ensure that, every, possibility or every scenario or situation is good and well. So I say that's the thing that challenges me the most when it comes to leadership.
Thank you, Dean Williams. Okay, so we're going to ask a couple more questions to the panelists before we open the floor for questions. So, Dr. Wendy Wilson, what qualities do you think are lacking in today's leaders?
And thank you. The questions were shared for with us prior, so that we could give some thought to them. And this one's interestingly enough stumped me. Immediately, the first thing that came to mind is, and I think I was basing it just on a national landscape and the grave disappointment in terms of leadership examples. That's just my personal opinion. But my immediate thought was just the lack of empathy that continues to be deeply disturbing. You can never take a very isolated or independent approach when you are leading. You have to be always mindful of those individuals that you are representing, and I like to frame it as those individuals that you are serving. And so you have to be connected with their circumstances and their conditions. And again, that goes directly to empathy. I may not have walked your path or had your exact experience, but if I take it from a human lens, and there go I, then that's when hopefully that empathy will engage. And so I do not see enough of that. And if you are fully serving, you should always possess that. And if you don't, then hopefully you have some people in your space that can let you know that that's lacking and that you need to make some decisions about the role that you're serving
Absolutely agree. Thank you. Thank you. President Marion Ross Frederick, what challenges, if any, did you face as a woman in your career field, and how did you overcome them?
Well, as she mentioned, I've been in a lot of different jobs, a lot of different jobs. I would say some of the probably the most difficult. Here is one thing. Probably my entire career, every boardroom that I walked into, every table that I sat amongst the others, people would automatically look and question. And it became, I'm going to call it comical. It helped me so to build my confidence in who I was and who I am and who I was going to be. I think that, and here's the deal. Some of those people at the table with me were not, they would look like me. They would look like me. And, I would think, wow, really, we're going to come that way. And what I realized is that no matter what the obstacles were, no matter what people thought, I always had to show up 150, 200%. And I don't mean that to say, stress yourself out about it. But when you think about just who we are at the core of particularly being Black women, what our ancestors have already gone through, when you just think about that, you realize really quickly it's pretty much nothing that we can't do. We just have to choose to do it. And sometimes it takes us, you got to get this additional education, this additional training, this additional exposure to do it. But I am absolutely convinced there's nothing that we can't do. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. When I think about the roles that I've played, even in corporate America, being an executive director in a Fortune 100 company, having responsibilities over 8 states, a union that I had to deal with, and all of those things, what I realized is that the more I listened to what was going on around me, and the more I just went back and kind of, let me adjust my style or kind of what I'm doing or how I'm speaking with someone, it removed obstacles. So at the end of the day, what would happen was that although I have no intention of trying to show up somebody else in the room, if I come in at 200% every time, eventually the people who are making decisions realize that I am the value that's at the table. And you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you definitely can't outwork me. And when I say that, I don't mean just struggle work. It could be just the smart work. It could just be, let me figure out how to do this smarter so that we aren't working at this 10, 20 hours a day. And I think obstacles for me being a female, me being Black, at one point it was me being from the North. I literally had people to tell me, you talk funny. which was hysterical. I mean, that was just hysterical to me. But those types of things. So you run into obstacles. So what I chose to do, don't focus on one. You may have a problem, but that's just what it is. It's your problem. And so I just have to always consistently show up and show up well. And I do that. And I do my research before I walk into a room. I want to know who's there. I want to know what I'm up against to the best extent that I can. And I want to be prepared. So please always just work on being prepared. Don't show up half-cocked. Don't show up not ready. Don't show up not knowing the people who are in a room. I have printed pictures of people before just to read up on their backgrounds so that I can know what orientation they may come from when we're at the table. And I think that's helped me tremendously throughout my entire career, especially now in higher education and in the government where you have so many constituents wanting to know what you know and to possibly be able to partner with you in different ways. So always know your room.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. That was really good. Dean Williams. What is your biggest fear as a leader, and what steps do you take to prevent this fear from becoming reality? Excuse me.
That's a juicy one too. I think as a leader, you're always wanting to be intentional about who you impact. And probably my biggest fear is that I'm not impactful enough in my exchanges or my interactions, whether it be short or long or, or an extended mentorship relationship, or, you may have just met me once or engaged with me once. I think for me, a fear of mine is not being as impactful to a person as I feel like I am in the inside, or the energy or the knowledge or the talent that I have on the inside that the persons that I'm interacting with don't receive that. It's my intention to give it to them, but whatever that block may be, that they don't receive what I feel like I'm full of and that I want to be able to give. And I learned this is my 17th year here at Albany State, and when I was a young professional, I wanted to just give everything that I had and tap out to nothingness in terms of what I gave this campus and what I gave the people that I serve, or even my community and my volunteering and things like that. And then I had to realize that you can't give to the point where you don't have anything left for yourself. You can't give to the point where you don't have anything that sustains you, or you don't have anything else to develop and grow. Whenever it's graduation time, I always talk to students about, I know you're graduating, but always be a student. Always be a student of life. Always be in a space where you can learn something from somebody and be able to still pour some things into yourself and your consciousness. And so I learned that that's a feeling I don't want to have, that I've given so much that I'm so exhausted in my function and in my capacity that I'm not able to be as effective. So I would say that's the thing I would press upon any young leaders or leaders like yourselves in this room. To be conscious of what your gifts are and what you're able to put out there, but hold it and treasure it too.
Yes. I feel like every leader can agree with that to a certain extent. So thank you. Dr. Peters, looking back, what have been some of the benefits you have received personally, professionally, or otherwise from your leadership experiences?
From my leadership experience?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my God, that's a loaded question. It's a loaded question. So many. I'm trying to find some examples. I want to go back to what the president said about doing your homework before you step into that position or before you step into that meeting. That is very, very true. So, as she was talking, an example popped to my head. Just finished my degree, and I had a meeting, like a month later, with 6 university presidents in the state in which I am from. And I was freaking out because I had to go in front of these university presidents and talk about STEM in the state of South Carolina. And so as I was freaking out trying to figure out what are they going to ask me, how do I respond, what do I do? And I didn't have anybody else that I knew of that I could, call upon. So I started thinking about the mentors in my life and the people in my life at that time. And so since I just finished my degree, I contacted my former advisor, who was a male, and asked him. And he told me exactly what I needed to do, how I needed to dress. Believe it or not, he was a male. How I needed to dress, what I needed to say, what type of questions I needed to ask, and so on and so forth. A huge part of that, he told me, was preparation, preparing for the meeting and any questions that they could respond to. And then he made me realize, he said this, "But Angela, why are you freaking out? They've called upon you because they are thinking that you are the expert in that field. So fall upon what you know. Fall upon your passion in STEM. Fall upon the education that you have received in there." And so that was extremely helpful. But I had to do my homework first, just like the president said. And then another, I think, Wendy, you said something that I wanted to piggyback on, but I forgot. But Dedra, everything that she said is also increasingly important when you think about the skills and what you bring to the table. So you have to be confident in who you are and what you can do in order to be a great leader. How many of you have seen leaders that just have no confidence? I mean, would you follow them? No. So a huge part of leadership is confidence. It's like 20 things: confidence, communication, this and that, and this and that, being personal. But when you are thinking about what type of leader that you want to be, then reflect on the leaders who have really, really impressed you in your lives, for your generation. I'm trying to think, your generation, Michelle Obama, right? Kamala Harris, people like that. Hillary Clinton? I don't know. Okay. Other than president, of course. Yeah, that's why I said for your generation. I was trying to think. I'm thinking Cardi B and stuff, but they're not real leaders, right? I mean, is Cardi B a leader? Who else? A.L. Fleming. Who's another female rapper?
Come on,
Keke Palmer. Oh, there you go. Somebody like Keke Palmer, right? Yeah. So when you're thinking about, showing up for that boardroom meeting, or showing up for that interview, or preparing for that interview, then look in the mirror. Just remember that you have a beyond the RAM confidence. I don't even know if that's a word, but anyway, we're making it up. You have beyond the RAM confidence. The fact that you were selected for that interview, or the fact that you were selected for that meeting, rely on that and rely on yourself, and then think about all of the folks who you have been mentored by, all of the people that you've met, and the qualities in them that really, really attracted you and really made you want to do better and to do more. And for me, that's a part of great leadership. And the last thing that I want to say, I think the mark of a great leader, for me, the mark of a great leader is how many people follow you. Yeah. So for me, it's all about being a role model. It's all about being the best that you can be. It's all about showing up and showing out. All right? And so that's my life.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Peters, one more question. I won't pick with you no more.
For me?
Yes, for you. What's the most important risk you took, and why was that?
What's the most important risk?
Yes, ma'am.
Leadership risk. And why what?
And why?
Oh, God. I know y'all sent the questions, but again, after everything that we just said about doing your homework, I just didn't have time to look at them. So, the most important risk and why? Oh, goodness. I am trying to think because I've had so many risky. I tell you one. The most important risk that I took in my life relative to leadership and work and all that, I think is when I finished college and in South Carolina, and I took a job to work, shift work, 3 to 11, in an oil factory in Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania. And I did that, number one, I think because of peer pressure, because all of my other friends, they had these great internships, they'd had these great jobs, they'd had people coming after them. And for me, Okay, hopefully this does not go anywhere outside of the walls, but for me, my freshman year, I did not do well in college because, okay, I had a guy who I was dating from Tallahassee. So that was my, I was all into him. After he flunked out of school freshman year, thank God. Remember, this does not leave these walls. Then that's when I started buckling down. But that was my sophomore year. And when you're down, ladies, and you try to bring your GPA up, it is very, very difficult. Hello? All right, take it from me. So I took the job, number one, because of peer pressure, because I had to have a job. Number two, I did not want to go back home to my parents after college. And number three, my parents had invested so much, and my mentors had invested so much in me, I knew I had to have something. So I took that position, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. I learned how to do hard work. I learned the value of hard work. I learned the value of $1, and I'm going to make it real to you. I made $410 a week, all right? So what is that times 4? Before taxes. And my rent in Delaware, because I was by myself, was $200 more than I made. So every night I had Taco Bell, the 99-cent special, and you do what you have to do. But that's where I learned my empathy. That's where I learned my compassion for people. And I would go into a deli and I think I was telling some other students this in a forum we had a couple weeks ago. I would go into a deli on those days when I was like, look, forget it. I'm going to go broke. I just want a Philly cheesesteak. I'm tired of Taco Bell. I would go into a deli in Claymont Deli, and this guy would come up to me every single time. Something like, hey, sweetie, you okay? You look sad. Do you know who that was? Joe Biden, Claymont Deli, because I worked about 15 minutes from where he was. I had no clue who he was until probably about 20 years later when I started looking at politics. But that was a huge risk for me. I was there, had no idea what I was going to do after college, was there by myself, and I'm so happy that I took that risk, because from there, that's when my life happened. That's when I learned to be strong. That's when I learned to be a great leader. That's when I learned how to survive. Again, I learned the power of $1, all right? So that was an excellent risk for me to take.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you to our guest speakers for your encouraging words of motivation and inspiration. We will now open the floor up for questions and comments for the panel. Anyone? Okay.
Hello. So oftentimes as leaders, like you all talked earlier, we tend to be nurturers and we want to fix everything. How hard is it for you all to say no?
You want me to start with that one? You know what? Actually, it's not that hard. Well, it's not that hard. Because someone said earlier, I think it was Dean Williams, you can't give it all away, right? I mean, you can't give all of yourself away. It is really easy to do that as a leader. And one of the things you learn and you practice, again, particularly being a female in leadership roles, you learn that saying no is the healthiest thing you can say at times. And so it takes practice. It does take practice. It's harder for me to tell my 13-year-old, 14-year-old now no than it is to do, to tend to kind of give them everything. But it doesn't translate that way as much at work. And so as a leader, you have to, and I encourage you all to stand in front of the mirror and say no if you have to, and do the face thing and all that other stuff, and and just understand that that is a healthy part of your leadership style. You have to be able to, but it takes practice. Y'all answer that question too. They tell me no all the time. So.
You want everybody to answer? Oh, okay. I agree, President. I am the worst at home. Absolutely the worst. My family say that I'm an enabler. Okay, 7 grandkids. So, I'm just absolutely the worst. I can't say no. But my father taught me how to say no, how to be a business woman. So at work, it is completely, completely different. Let me tell you about my dad and the business part. It'll be a 30-second story. He was such a business guy at home, at work, that when he would write me letters, when I was in college, he would write me a letter. He never signed it Dad. He would always sign it he would always put his formal name. So he had his doctorate. So he would even say love, sincerely, Dr. blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, is this guy related to me? So it's much easier for me at home to say no, but at work, you have to put it in perspective. Because like the President and Dedra said, if you give away everything, then what do you have to give? You have to think about the mission and fall back, since we're at a university, fall back on the mission of the university. If I say yes, will this help the mission? If I say no, will this help? And so you have to put the question in perspective, remembering that we are an organization and we have to continue to survive.
All I want to add is, let's say it together. No. Just practice saying it. No. No, it's okay.
All except for to me. When I ask something, I have to say yes. Let's just agree.
Hello, my name is Kendall. When y'all were referring to, job interviews and job searches, have y'all ever been in a situation where you were looked over, and how did that make you feel, and how did you handle it? Just because you're a woman and a black woman.
Let Dr. Wilson take that one first.
So it will happen more often than not. Being able to pinpoint it and say it's exactly because of race or exactly because of my gender, that's going to be the challenging part. And sometimes it will be, we were talking about this the other day, the microaggressions, and then sometimes they come in the form of macroaggressions. When it's the macro, you can certainly say it is exactly this, because sometimes people will be so foolish enough to then share with you that that's why I didn't go with you. And so then you have to make some decisions. But the flip side of that is you can't avoid it, but you still have to move forward. And you have to believe, if not that one, then the right one is in my path. One of my favorite quotes, and it hangs in my office, is "Be so good that they can't ignore you," and it's by Steve Martin. And I really try to model that thought, because again, you want to get to a point, and someone gave me this advice years ago, that the job comes after you. You don't have to go after the job. And if I don't leave anything else with you, people will try to hold your race and gender against you and use it as a decision maker. But I want all of you ladies in particular, I know we have some gentlemen in the room, but all of you ladies to be empowered because of your race and your gender, because it comes with so many gifts and benefits. And so don't let anyone try to define that or limit you. But to answer your question, absolutely, I've experienced that from time to time. And sadly, depending upon it certainly happens with the dominant culture, so that can happen with, using your race and your gender. And sometimes in our culture, in the African American culture, your gender will be used against you. Yeah. So, but don't let that stop you from being your whole self and bringing your entire being to that moment. That's their issue. And if that's not experience is not to serve you, meaning that particular job, know that you keep pushing through, and the one that you are to serve successfully will come in your path. Great question.
I'm gonna weigh in a little bit on that from being a. I'm sorry. It's okay. From being a HR lead in multiple companies. So first, make sure you do your research before you walk in there. I'll go back to that. If you're coming in a company that you kind of feel may have that kind of problem, because that's kind of a problem that's so embedded that you're not going to change that. But know that. And then second to that, know that if that's how they are, you don't want to be there. No matter how much you think you do, you don't want to be there. And until that starts changing, and you could be the catalyst for that to start changing. I will also say that I've had people to come back and say they didn't want me because I was black or female. And I would think, no, they didn't want you because you weren't good. So make sure when you go in, you're showing it all. You're actually showing up the way you should show up. I also encourage you, if you go in and you have this thought process that, they didn't select me because of my race or my gender, ask the question. Actually go to that hiring manager, to that HR person, and what you would do is say, so how did I do in the interview? How did I do compared to others in the interview? What are my background? How does it kind of, measure up to others in the interview process? Don't ever walk away thinking that is the sole reason. You gotta, and it could be, but you gotta ask the questions, because if not, that hurt starts taking you over. And whatever you do, make sure you are actually guarding that process, because if you don't say something, if you can even know that that's why they did it, but ask some questions, because you need to know how to handle it the next time. You may even need to know whether or not you need to call them on the carpet for what happened, but you need more data than probably what you have at that moment. So ask questions, and if it's not of the hiring manager, somebody in that space is willing to talk to you. Just find out who they are and ask the questions, but don't let that kind of stuff stay unanswered, because it will grow, and you don't want that to happen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Janelle Jeffries, and the question for the panel is, how has your leadership style changed and developed during this pandemic?
What pandemic? I'll let y'all go. Go ahead.
So for me, I think I have done a better job of being a better listener. And y'all wouldn't know Kenny Rogers, but anyway, Kenny Rogers would say, you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them, you got to know when to walk away, you got to know when to run. So for me, that is what I've had to do during the pandemic. I'd had know when to listen, know when to shut up, know when to act, know when to sit back. And then the other thing is I had to learn a lot more. I really had to dive into some technology. VP Fleming will tell you, I used to email him all the time, can you send me this link? Can you send me this link? And he was like, darn it, here's the link for the entire semester. Stop asking me. So many of us, maybe even you, had to learn more of technology. But for me, it was about reflecting, listening more, knowing when to act, knowing when to be proactive and when to be active.
I would say for me, I pride myself on being adaptable and very flexible, given the situation, being able to kind of turn on a pin and move. I used to think that I prided myself on that until the pandemic, and it became a true reality. I think what I thought was me being adaptable and flexible way back when, pre-COVID, was, just me being baby flexible, but now really understanding what it means to be prepared, but be prepared for, what you don't know or what may change. And still, as we're living and breathing currently, what 2 months from now will look like and how that impacts your planning. It's just taught me I always like to have a plan A and a B, but it's taught me to get a C and a D. It's probably the biggest thing that it has taught me in leadership. And the other thing is to really increase the amount of grace that I lend myself, and then people who I'm working with or people that I'm servicing, just to offer grace to people, because we're all maneuvering this thing, this ship together, and we don't know the end. We don't know what it's going to be, and we can have all these plans. But I would certainly say just being a lot more adaptable and flexible, but certainly just offering grace to all of those that are around us, because we're all being impacted.
I'm in copycat mode. That was exactly what my thoughts were. I just phrased them in my head a little differently. You have to be nimble. You may have a particular style that works best for you and an approach. And I have learned that you, as Dean said, you need to be able to pivot on a dime, be okay with that, exercise that observation skill set, and then know how to respond to the moment. And the other thing, and I've said this earlier, I think I did, about just being patient with the moment and being patient with yourself and being intentional about taking care of yourself. The president always is honest. She leads a very large, at the system level, mental health and wellness initiative. And so you have to make sure that you're doing that. And it goes beyond eating right and exercising. It's about being still in the moment. It's about if you need to release and respond, and it's about cutting off the noise, if that's a television or social media or whatever that is, so that your spirit and your mind can rest. So those are the two things. Just be nimble, adjust to the moment, and take care of yourself, your entire being. Make sure that you are whole and well. And if you're not, and you see those indicators, then take the steps to get that addressed.
Thank you, panelists, for your words again, and you will receive a token of appreciation for your time today. And now we'll have Ms. O'Hara with the closing remarks.
Thank you again to all the panelists for your words of encouragement, inspiration, and leadership. We really appreciate it. I want to give a special thank you to 92.7 ASU-FM for live broadcasting this event right now. And a special thank you to VP A.L. Fleming for also broadcasting this through ASU YouTube. So thank you again. Also, we're trying to wrap it up and be on time and respect everybody's time. So we want to give our panelists a token of appreciation, because I know you have busy schedules, so we want to really thank you. It's just a small token from the Division of Student Affairs. She's going to bring it out.